Hiya, my name's Anna and I will be doing the midweek encouragement, looking at Isaiah chapters 11 and 12. So I didn't really know what to talk about with this passage because it's just really rich. It's really lovely because we've been going through a lot of doom and gloom of Isaiah, and there's this sort of couple of chapters here that are just sort of rejoicing and full of hope, and there's a lot in there. So what I've done instead is I've sort of brought what God's been challenging me about recently, and I've sort of brought it into the text. So I hope that this encourages some of you, and I hope that it kind of makes sense. So to me, these passages, they talk a lot about heaven and how the Saviour will come again and bring peace and unity between nature, men, and basically all living things. As a child, if I thought about heaven, I think I'd get a bit scared. I didn't really understand what heaven meant. It didn't mean just leaving behind mum and dad. Would I even know who they were in heaven? And what would that mean? And I just thought about angels and bright lights, and that was about it. And it was a bit too big for my mind to grasp. And then as a teenager, if I thought about heaven, if I thought about it too much, I've just thought about all the things that I wouldn't have that I enjoyed on earth. I think at some point somebody taught me basically that heaven wasn't going to be like earth. It was just going to be a new place, and you wouldn't need there was no need for things like food and drink, and like a house, a bed to lie your head, to lie down in. And I think that those sorts of things were quite important to me as a teenager. Eating and sleeping were quite big deals in my life, and the fact that they weren't going to be there anymore, I sort of thought, am I just going to get bored then? Because what was there to do? And also the other element of it was, I had friends at school who didn't know God and didn't believe in heaven, and then I just got scared about them not going to heaven, and yeah, I think my whole view of heaven and the new earth was just a bit skewed. So then I think that as a sort of young 20-year-old into like late 20s, I just didn't think about it. I don't think I had, I was getting married and buying a house and getting a job, and I don't know, just having kids, and just life sort of didn't allow me room to think about heaven that much. But recently, over the last few years, God has been challenging me to readdress my view of heaven. So looking at these verses, in chapter 11, verse 6 and 9, it talks of the wolf romping with the lamb, leopards with the kids, and calf and lion both grazing on the same pasture, babies handling snakes, and complete unity among nature. And then in verse 9, it says, the whole earth will be brimming with knowing God alive and a living knowledge of God, ocean deep and ocean wide. That's from the Message. And then we read in verse 11 how the Saviour will gather in his scattered people. And in verse 12, how there will be no competing, like nations will unite. And to me, that just sort of screams of heaven, because Jesus obviously has come, but that stuff hasn't happened yet. So it must be about heaven. There's my logic anyway. So God has been teaching me about the importance of fixing my eyes on Jesus. That's sort of been like the running theme across the last 4 or 5 years of my life, as some of you know, I've had like a bit of a difficult time. So within that, my heart was drawn to the hope that the new earth brings. So God didn't make this earth and think that'll do. They're going to ruin it anyway. I'll just whip something together. I know what's going to happen. They're going to ruin it, and what's the point in putting effort into it? No, he made the earth and he loved the earth. And whether you believe the creation story is written poetically or literally, I personally love the detail that is in those opening passages of the Bible. God is God. He could have just, and everything was done. But God is a God who takes time and love and beauty in his creation. So if he, in all of his wisdom, created our world perfectly, that means to me that the new earth will be our earth renewed. But in like hyper colour, hyper sound, hyper smell and taste. So it now excites me. And I still do like food and being with friends and family. So So also the promise of a new earth helps me to get a healthy perspective of the worldview. I am horribly insecure about lots of things, and I'm sure we all have our own insecurities. Sometimes we can feel like we need approval and affirmation from the world. But when I think of all the things that will count in heaven, it helps me so much to let go of those needs and insecurities. Not that they're completely gone, but it does help get you there a little bit. So I have a daily choice, how I spend my time and what I fill my heart and my mind with. Dad spoke about this on Sunday, and it prompted me to think about recent challenges that God has given me. So when I die, there will be certain things that I have done or displayed on earth that will be carried with me to heaven or to the new earth. In Matthew 6 verse 19, very famous verse, it says, "Do not store up yourself treasures on earth where moss and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moss and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be." So who knows what those treasures will be when we have the new earth, but Jesus said that we can store up treasures in heaven, so that must be something that we can do. So as an example of something that God's challenged me with very recently, so every day I read my Bible. I hadn't done for a long time. Until last year, I felt really convicted to start reading daily, doing a daily reading. And so I did the Nicky Gumbel Bible in 1 year. It's really good because he does like a little overview of the verses, and then it's an audible reading of a psalm or proverb, and then an Old Testament and a New Testament. So it's a really good way to get through the Bible. Although I would say I think reading it does help you absorb more of it than just listening to it. So anyway, since then I've read my Bible every day, and so I'll do that whilst the kids are eating their breakfast, because I find that if my children have food in their mouth, it's less likely that they're going to be loud and talking to me. So that's my opportune moment in the day to actually get some reading done. Anyway, I started watching a program. I had like Prime Video or something on my phone, and there was just a TV program that I watched ages ago, and I've just started catching up with the new series. Now, there's nothing wrong with the program, there's nothing wrong with the content. It's not sordid or, inappropriate. However, I found that my attitude towards my life had changed. It sounds dramatic, but it actually is true. The program had sucked me in, and all I wanted to do was watch it whenever I could. So I was still reading my Bible each morning, still doing my daily, Proverbs reading or whatever. But instead of thinking I'm going to take time to read this and absorb it, I was actually doing it because then I thought, well, that's ticked off the list, and then I can go and watch my program later on after work, or when I'm doing the washing up, or when I'm sorting out dinner. It really took over, and God just really convicted me about it. He showed me that I didn't actually have heaven in my heart or mind when I was making that choice. And God asked me, are you making the most of your time? Are you building your spiritual muscles, or are you letting them atrophy? And obviously I knew the answer. So, it's little things that sometimes, and TV and programs might not be an issue for you. You could easily watch a program and not have it take over your whole life. But for some people it is something as simple as that, and we don't want to admit it because it sounds silly, but I think that it's really important to be honest with yourself and be honest with God about it. So don't get me wrong, I don't think that TV's the devil, but like Dad said on Sunday, it was becoming more important than God. So when I was watching that program, my day was filled with that storyline and those people and those characters and the will they, won't they's, and just complete, just mindless stuff that I didn't need to have in my head. But Satan has a very good way of making us believe that by being in the world but not of the world, that we will somehow miss out on something amazing. You know, if I don't watch that, if I don't log on to Facebook and show everyone how my life's going, I somehow I'm going to miss out. But we know what the truth is, don't we? The world can never satisfy, and even Satan knows that. Anyway, I deleted the app on my phone, and instead, when I would normally have watched a programme, I listened to a sermon or put some worship music on. And God showed me the value of investing in heavenly treasures. So when I die, my friend's opinion about my baking is not going to go with me. It's not going to matter. Whether I'm a size 16 or a size 8, it's not going to impress God. It's not going to make me, more holy. My sole aim in this life should be to dwell in God's presence, loving him and living a life that reflects this to others. So in chapter 12, verse 2, it says, God is my strength, my song, and best of all, my Saviour. Again, that's from the Message version. My strength, song, and salvation. Everything I need to stand firm, everything I need to be joyful, everything I need to be rescued. Jesus is the answer. Looking anywhere else will lead to confusion, blindness, squiffy perspectives, and dissatisfaction. Don't believe the lie that you're going to miss out. Instead, understand the promise that you are written in the book of life, and God's riches are so far beyond what we can ever get from this world. As it says in chapter 12, verse 5 to 6 in the Message, sing praise to God. He has done it all. Let the whole earth know what he's done. Raise the roof. Sing your hearts out, O Zion. The greatest lives among you, the Holy of Israel. So I hope that there's something in there that's new to you, or something that just to encourage you along. I hope you have a good rest of the week. Bye.